Bob Lord is the Forrest Gump of advertising, except he actually knew what he was doing. Razorfish, AOLIBM, now Horizon Media. The man left our industry, learned quantum computing for fun, and came back to tell us we've been screwing it up the whole time. Gotta respect that energy. This is the Adotat Show. We ask the questions that make PR people nervous. And now, Pesach Latin, the rabbi of ROAS, the man of metrics, the sultan of shade.
I'm Pesach Latin. This is the Adotat Show. Today's guest is Bob Lord. He's been inside agencies, platforms, and big tech, and now sits at the exact fault line where media, marketing, and technology collide. This is not a tour of the resume. This is a pressure test. So first of all, the most important question of the day, how are you doing? And no pressure.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How are you? Happy New Year.
Thank God.
2026.
Doing amazing. Thank you. Happy New Year. You'll be the first show of this new year, 2026. Anyway, when you step back and look at the traditional agency holding company model right now, does it feel like a thoughtful reinvention in progress or a system that spent the last decade polishing language while actually avoiding structural change?
Look, I think there's a lot of change happening with how consumers are actually discovering products and discovering brands now. That's putting in an enormous amount of pressure on the old agency models, which have their own inertia. Traditional agency models slow brands down. They don't actually make them go faster. So in my mind, there is a fundamental shift that's happening around the consumer and where the consumer is doing. So therefore, every marketing pillar that we've actually believed in and have thought about in the last 30 years is thrown up in the air. And that includes the agency model and where the agency fits. So it's a structural change.
Right now they seem to face margin compression, client in-house, and AI-driven efficiency. But I think one of the most important parts is CFO-led scrutiny. How much does the CFO actually affect the decisions day-to-day in your agency, for example?
Yeah. Well, so look, I think this is an opportunity for us to use technology and data in a way where the CMO and the CFO become friends for once in their life. And you take an agency and you move it from being an agency partner to a growth partner, where you're actually moving their business forward. And that's exactly what we're doing at Horizon Media. We're actually looking at the legacy models that are FTE based. They're people based models. Those don't necessarily generate growth for the company. So we're moving our models to much more of a performance based model, which is driven by a platform and a technology that drives the customer's business. So therefore, for every dollar that you spend, you should see a widget being performed at the other end, whether it's a new car, whether it's a new bed being sold, whether it's some kind. But your dollar as a marketer, as a shareholder, you should show that there's a return on that dollar in the sales of the company going forward. And I think that's the fundamental shift. And the good news is, for all the years I've been in this industry, we are finally at the point where the technology is going to allow you to actually measure that and measure it competently, so that a CFO and a CMO can actually see eye to eye.
So when you say performance marketing, how is it different than the traditional CPA model?
Oh my God, so different.
Performance modeling.
So you could have a click-through rates, and you could have a marketing criteria. You could set up a marketing qualified lead. You could have click-throughs off your website, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually driving the business of the company. Did I sell more cars? Did I sell more beds? Did I sell more widgets over time? And I believe that that's where the agencies need to go. And in a way, that's why I believe a media company, when you were an AOR, when you were an agency of record 30 years ago, you were an agency of record because you were driving the customer business. I remember when I was at Razorfish, Mercedes-Benz was my client, and we were tied to the sales that were being driven in North America by the number of cars that are being sold. We had a bonus tied to that, right? Now, I think what's happened in the industry...
Eric Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
I think at this point, when an agency, you've moved from being an agency of record over the last 30 years to an agency, and a vendor. And I think we have the opportunity with technology and data now to become a growth partner with our clients. And that's the fundamental shift that the agency world needs to take. So no longer am I just going to be measured on marketing qualified leads or whether or not someone did a download. I'm going to be measured on whether or not I sold internet packages or whether or not I've sold cars or I transact. So I'm driving the company's business. And the great news is technology has come such a far way just in the last year that we're going to have technology, not just AI, but technology that we can embed into the client's ad tech stacks, which embed into the ERP systems, which embed into the financial systems. So you're going to be able to take $1 of media that you're being spent on a performance-driven model.
So can you walk me through a specific moment when the agency model failed a client, not because the people were lazy or bad, because the structure itself could not support what the client actually needed?
Well, I think it's happening on a daily basis today. I mean, I think since the consumer is making decisions in a very different way now, okay? They're not going to traditional search. They're discovering products through AI answer engines, whether that's Reddit answers, whether that's Perplexity, whether that's ChatGPT, whatever that may be. They're discovering products in a different way, okay? The agencies need to be actually working on content-based programs so that the brands show up in those conversations in the answer engines. I'd suggest to you today that a lot of agencies aren't doing that yet. So in my mind, the agency model is not moving fast enough to where the consumer is. The consumer has already made a decision that they're going to do discovery, product and brand discovery in a very different way than they've done just a year ago. And because of that, the agency model needs to move faster and quicker to get there. And the only way you're going to do that is through implementing creative and data strategies to keep up with the consumer, to figure out how you can create a great value exchange between the brand and the consumer. And it suggests to you the agency models are not necessarily doing that because they're in their own inertia right now. Even when you go and pitch right now, we're still talking about FTE models. How many people are you going to have on the business? And therefore, I'll compensate you appropriately. If I can swap out technology and cut the staff by a third, shouldn't that be the model? Shouldn't I be actually bringing in the best of breed technologies to actually do the marketing and the distribution of marketing versus actually just having an FTE model? And those are the things that we're challenging at Horizon Media right now.
So do you feel that like agencies historically arbitrate complexity, risk, and accountability?
I believe that over the last couple of decades, that the way that the process was run through purchasing, the brands on purchasing, was to lower cost. I think there were certain incentives that the agencies built up to protect their profit. And I think that that is the inertia that we're all fighting right now, where the agencies is not an FTE-based model. It's not about scale and buying. This is all about how do I get to the consumer in a smart and efficient way through technology and through data.
So I've also read a lot about how agencies...
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would get full credit for the meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
These spend a lot of time optimizing their own margin before client outcomes. How much is that affecting the market even today?
Okay, I would suggest to you, and I know as a fact, there's a lot of money that has been spent to build up legacy technology and infrastructures and data systems at the agencies. Those models that were created in the last decade were there to make the agency run faster and more profitably, okay, to make it more efficient, to actually use their own systems, to charge for technology, to charge for data strategies. They were not built to run the marketer's business faster and more productive. We have built new technology that's based on AI and data that we believe is going to help the marketer do their job better and faster and more effectively. So yeah, I think there are old systems, old inertia systems that have been put in place because of the models that have been created over the last decade that were built to make the agency run faster, not necessarily make the marketer's business grow.
So what is one structural change that you would change tomorrow if you could?
Transparency. Just transparency. Just tell me about my buying transparency. At the core of Horizon Media is a philosophy and a culture of transparency. Bill Konigsberg started the company on if I get a credit back from my media company or a producer or whoever it may be, I will pass that on to my customers. So now you get into the complexities, not only just of buying transparency, but now you have data feed transparencies. You have how do I create an audience? How did that audience get created before I target it? The transparency about how that audience is being made up. How do I set up a media plan So on our platform, we actually have co-created a platform where the client has hands-on keyboard and they help us co-create the data strategy, the audience strategy, and the planning strategy. Because then on the back end, when you do the measurement about results, they're in the process of helping you just develop that. So if I could change one thing, it would be about transparency in the model.
So I want to move on to the thing that everyone invokes as a savior and a scapegoat at the same time, which is AI. From where you sit, what is AI genuinely good at today, and where is the industry still telling itself comforting stories?
Well, look, I think when you think about AI, and remember, I left the industry for about 8 years. I went over to IBM. So I left the marketing media landscape and then went into IBM. So I was pretty well steeped in sort of large language models, neural networks, and AI, quantum computing, and sort of learned how the software was built around these technologies.
So you actually escaped the industry and came back?
I came back. And actually, what was so ironic when I came back, it was more confusing in this world for a marketer with all the ad tech companies and all the ad tech data companies and all the MarTech companies out there to figure out how to sort through how do you do marketing than when I left, which was a shame. If I could use the IBM software on supply chain to find a SKU level product in the middle of the South Seas of China and tell you when it was going to come into San Francisco, I could do that online. I could just sign online the Sterling product and figure that out. But I still couldn't tell a marketer how their campaign ran in the last week. Something went wrong. And in my mind, the agency inertia model held everyone back from actually innovating. And I think technology just went awry. So where are we today? I believe that AI is an incredible thought partner and should remain a thought partner. It can actually take a lot of the white space or the non-value added space around data reconciliation, around data curation, data access. At Horizon, what we did was we took all our databases, we flattened them, we made them AI ready, and we put an AI answer engine on top of it. So we democratize access to campaign and information and marketing data. Really, really important, because this is about collaborating with AI, not letting AI make the decisions. This is not about saying, oh, you know what? Perplexity did that, so therefore it was right. No, you can't say your dog ate your homework. You've got to actually check and verify. So I consider AI as a thought partner, but it's a very great thought partner to help me compress all of that thinking that I would have to do and the time I would have to do, whether it's on research reports, whether it's financial reconciliation, or whether it's just actually doing a creative brief. Hey, I am a marketer who's after selling glass. I need to know a marketing strategy that I can put out for the US and Europe. And the machine comes back and gives me a thought of how I would do that. Who are the primary competitors? The machine comes back and gives me that initial thought starter. But I still have to work with it to actually come to a plan and use human intervention to actually create a plan and make it happen. So it's a thought partner.
I want to back up a little bit. When someone says it's AI driven, what should an informed listener realistically assume that's actually happening at a basic level?
When someone says it's AI driven, in my definition, it means that you are using large language models to assess data and content in a way to organize your thoughts and your problem solving abilities. So it helps you think through strategies that you would use in marketing to put together, whether it's a global media program or a global measurement program, or you want to go after a competitor. So the large language models allow you to go through reams and reams of data and research reports to summarize a conclusion of what you would want to do and a thought starter.
So can you point to a real example where AI made a marketer's life meaningfully better without hollowing out accountability or judgment?
Sure. I'll give you a very good report, easy one. We probably spent 3 weeks putting together monthly update and campaign reports for our clients. Those reports now can be done, the basic reports can be done in a matter of days, maybe even a day. That gives the marketer the ability to actually look at the data, analyze the data. What does the data mean? What is the insight we're getting from the data? And actually allows you, instead of doing the grunt work of producing the report, you're able to garner insight from the report with trends and oversight to inform what your media campaign should be moving forward. On a creative brief, you could go in and say, this is the kind of customer I'm trying to go after. I want to go after Gen Z women. And are they interested in EVs in LA? Who are those people that we should likely go after? And what is the messaging we want to go after? AI will do that research for you. You load it up certain documents so that it can research those documents.
and it comes back with a thought starter about how to go after that Gen Z population for women in the LA. Now, that doesn't mean that that's exactly how you do it, but it sure the heck cuts the cycle time down of you doing all the research before you can actually have the conversation about what you should do and where you should go. So those are two examples.
I think that we, our generation, people like myself and maybe a little bit older, are actually going to get it? Because you use the term reams of data for this. And it makes me wonder, like, is it to be the next generation that actually gets this?
No, you start to see adoption. I go back, my analogy I use is Google Maps.
Right.
When Google Maps first...
My parents are 90 and use Google Maps.
Okay.
I think that's crazy,
that's the point,
right?
Like, initially, no one was using Google Maps.
And people make fun of older people not using things. They use Google Maps. They text with their grandkids, which I think is amazing. I think they sometimes speak more to my kids than I do, just because of texting. Because I try not to text.
I think there are, in any adoption of new technology, there's those early adopters and there's those laggards. So I think to categorize us just as, generations is not right. You have to talk who are those early adopters, like you or I, and who are those laggards who are never going to get on the platform because they're not even on search right now. So I do think that that's going to be the mix. I do think for the early adopters and the people who adopt this technology, they are going to help solve some really challenging problems that we have not solved as a society. And I'm encouraged by that, to tell you the truth.
So what do you think is more valuable, though? Technical literacy or moral clarity?
I think critical reasoning and moral clarity is more important. Because actually what's really, really exciting about these tools is you don't have to have the technical depth. You don't have to have the coding capabilities. You don't have to have the critical, call it the Steve Jobs learn to program skills, right? You don't have to have that. All you have to have is critical reasoning skills and a moral compass to actually help to make those decisions appropriately to utilize the technology most effectively. So you kind of see jobs collapsing in a way because you don't need those specialties as much as you do anymore. Think about QA coding. It's gone, right? The machines are doing all the QA work that we used to do after you were a developer and you would send it into the QA team to go and check your work before we go into production. The machines are doing all that work for us right now.
Am I wrong that there seems to be a real risk that AI makes agencies dramatically faster sometimes at delivering the wrong answers?
Well, no, I think therein lies the challenge. I think that's going to be the difference between great agencies and bad agencies. It's how you use these tools. One of the things I did when I first came on the beginning of the year was we rolled out AI in a responsible way, and we put out the AI rules of responsible adoption of AI within marketing. That means you have explainability. You know where the answers came from. You know where the data was trained. You know how the machines are making their decisions. And you own the answer. This is not about just getting to the answer quickly. You own the conclusion of it all. And that isn't something that, as we usher in AI into the marketing world, those kinds of things, again, I'll go back to transparency. The transparency about the models, how the machines are making the decisions. Those are the kind of things that are going to spike up adoption.
So let's move to 2035. Which AI promise from today do you think most people look back at the way we look at early programmatic hype? Like the flying car. Every generation has a flying car. Do we have those yet?
Yeah, I don't. One of the promises, that, you're going to have an agency that runs with a whole bunch of agents that talk to one another. I am unclear whether those kinds of things will happen, meaning that a brand will have an agent that will communicate with its customer agent to sell its services. I don't know if we're going to get there. I think there's a lot more nuance in the emotion, in the appeal of how people want to buy, and the romance of buying that I think brands can actually appeal to and sell to.
I think IRL will have a completely different meaning at some point. I saw someone on social media, they actually take modern products and draw on it so it looks like a sketch, so it looks not real. So you can put it in your house, it looks like someone drew it. So people are even leaning into like a faux realism.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I don't want to say that I know the crystal ball.
Will drive-throughs come back? That's what I want to know.
Drive-throughs? What do you mean? Like a drive-through service?
No, like drive-through movie theaters.
Movie theaters. Oh, drive-ins, you mean. Drive-in. Oh,
yeah, drive-ins. Sorry. Drive-throughs.
Drive-ins.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Because
I was born at the end of them, so
Hmm.
I didn't get to experience them in their full glory. But I would like to see them come back, like something.
Yeah.
Something.
I think the experiences are going to feel much more immersive than they ever have before because they had those little squawker boxes in your car. You really didn't get a sense of what the movie was about. But if you think about what the Sphere is doing, I'm in Vegas right now, so I'm looking at it right now. But like
Right.
that kind of immersive experience, AI can really and technology can really get you in that
So
moment.
your house doesn't actually look like a Vegas hotel.
No, no, it does not. No. I'm here at CES.
Right. So you've said before that growth and comfort don't coexist. However, in real life, what does uncomfortable leadership actually look like when people's roles, identities, and routines are being rewritten in real time?
Yeah, so I learned growth and comfort don't coexist from Ginny Rometty, who was a former CEO of IBM.
Right.
And I came in there as a chief digital officer, and she was really going through a major transformation. And that was sort of her mantra, was if you're not pushing yourself hard enough
Hmm.
and you're comfortable all the time, you're never going to grow. And it rang true for me over and over again. And as I go through the journey we're on right now, quite honestly, we're in the muddy middle. And I tell my staff that. I know I don't know all the answers. I know where I want to get to. I know this idea of what it will be, and your life will be easier on marketer, and you're going to be able to communicate to synthetic customers. So you're going to be able to get insights about how they would buy, and then you could set up your media plan differently because you're going to know the customer very differently than you ever could do before. We're not there yet. So everybody's role is changing, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And the question is, are you the kind of person that thrives on being uncomfortable to grow, to learn? If you're one
Right.
of those people, you're going to make it through. You're going to grow. We're going to grow. And I actually think she sort of nailed it by saying growth and comfort don't coexist together, because I think it's a very, very shorthand way of saying, you know what? Life is about change. And if you embrace change, you're going to grow in general.
Isn't there argument though that like Gen Alpha today just embraces comfort everywhere and that's all they expect is comfort? I mean, isn't that what it shows on social media, that everyone should have the most comforting, perfect, amazing life?
Look, I mean, whether what's on social media and how it sort of how it's affecting sort of the youth in general is a major topic, and I don't want to understate it. But all I know is there are people in the world who still strive for betterment, for education, who want to learn, and those are the people that are going to thrive in this environment. There are people who are driving the car, and there are people in the back seat. The people who are driving the car and taking us to the promised land, those are the people that are going to thrive, and those are the people that like to be uncomfortable in what they do.
So what discomfort are we talking about that leaders should lean into, and what discomfort should they ignore? I mean, so that not all pain builds muscle.
Yeah, no, but it's a matter of being open. It's a matter of
Right.
having your mind open so that you'll accept new ideas and try new things. Okay, if you're a closed-minded system, it just stifles innovation. I mean, that's why I talk all the time about an open ecosystem. One of the biggest things I learned from IBM was the power of an open ecosystem and how that spurs innovation across the collective group. When it's a closed system and it's a proprietary operating system, it stifles innovation and it stifles people's behaviors to do the wrong thing. Part of this idea of being open to this new world of technology is not to sort of say, oh yeah, I tried Perplexity once or twice, I really don't like it, I'm going to go back and do traditional search. No, this is about how do I actually figure out how to get more out of this machine? How do I talk to this machine in a very different way than I ever have before? How do I figure out what prompt engineering is? I mean, I never even knew the word until 2 years ago. And now it's all about there's ways of talking to the machine differently, just like you would do if you were programming a machine to get the best out of it. Sometimes you want it to be a thought partner. Sometimes you want to ask it, put in your vision plan and ask it to ask you 10 questions so you're prepared in front of a CFO. Sometimes you want it to be the persona of the CEO you're going to pitch, and you put your pitch deck in and you say to it, you know what, can you tell me, if you were the CEO of this company, what kind of questions would you have for me? So before you go in, you're prepared. That's the kind of intellectual curiosity and things that make you feel uncomfortable, right? Before you're in the moment. Those are the kinds of things that get us out of our comfort zone, but make us better as human beings and make us better as companies.
So what type of decision moves the business forward? Is it something comfortable or something with a little bit of resistance?
Oh no, you know what? My experience has always been there has to be some kind of resistance. And there has to be these moments of truth in the company of where we're heading and where we've been. There has to be those people, and there are people in the company who I would call laggards who are like, no, I liked it the old way. No, I liked XYZ brand. Why are you messing with this at all? We were working with a creative company at one of our clients, and I'm bringing in a creative technology which helps to optimize technology for production capabilities and scoring capabilities. And they have been resisting it every way. So finally, with the client, we set a date and we're implementing the technology. Now that the technology is being implemented, they're embracing it. So it's almost like you had to drag them across the line to get them to the point. And by the way, it's not perfect. There are things that still have to happen. But the fact that we brought them across the line and got them to take on this technology to do creative production and creative scoring was a big milestone. But it wasn't because they were willing to come. We had to pull them across the line to do that and get them out of their own comfort zone. So there's a lot of resistance when this kind of change happens. It's just natural.
So if every leader had to surrender one comforting illusion, what illusion should go first?
One comforting illusion. That everything can be perfect and everything can be right. This idea, as you grow up, especially an American, you grow up in school to always have the right answer. That's a misnomer. The way that you succeed as an executive, whether you're Jamie Dimon, whether you're Ginny Rometty, is to open up and sort of experiment, fail quickly, fail fast, learn from one another, and move forward. That's how you succeed. So I think this illusion that we're always going to be right and we're always going to have the right answer. And when your fifth grade teacher was rewarding you because you had your hand up first and you had the right answer, those kind of behaviors are not successful in business.
So where have you seen this openness actually outperform control in real business terms?
Oh my God, okay, think of the best technology companies that are out there today. Their market caps. Think about Google. Think about IBM. They are open. They were built on open technologies. They had an open ecosystem. They started fundamentally by not creating proprietary code. They basically took Linux as the core operating system and built projects off of that Linux operating system to actually propel themselves. So if you just look at the technology world, it's some of the biggest market cap companies. Their fundamental premise is on open source technology. And this open ecosystem, this idea of an open ecosystem. And if I have my own experience at IBM, when we opened up the ecosystem to multiple cloud providers with hybrid cloud, instead of just focusing on the IBM cloud, our business grew proportionally because you were able to open it up and provide more solutions to clients that you were prevented from doing before.
So a little bit about risk psychology here. Why do leaders then confuse control with safety?
It's interesting. Look, I think there's comfort in knowledge. There's comfort in holding knowledge tight to yourself. Because again, if you want to be right all the time, if you hold knowledge back from everybody, you basically are the smartest person in the room. And I remember a mentor of mine back in the early 90s told me, Bob, you're very, very smart, but your job is not to be the smartest person in the room. Your job is to get everyone else in that room convinced that it's the right idea. And when he told me that was sort of the moment of time for me to say, you know what? The only way you can do that is to bring people through the decision-making process with you to get there. So I do think that there is this misnomer of wanting to be right all the time that's wrong as a leader and an executive.
So if the ad industry truly embraced openness tomorrow, who would lose power first?
I think some of the walled gardens that control their data sets would struggle with an open environment. There are some walled garden platforms that don't share data out on how their consumers are doing or what the consumers are doing. And I think those kind of walled gardens are at risk when you actually open up the ecosystem to really, truly understand your consumer. So look, right now there are two ways to be a marketer. You can be a lazy marketer, and you can basically spend 90% to 99% of your dollars on Facebook platform, Instagram platform, and just funnel the money that way on digital. Or you can actually take your own data, your own first-party data, and get to know the customer at a very, very minute level so that you can actually have a value exchange with them in a very different way. And own the data. Build your own data records and build your own profile records. And that's a lot harder to do in the world that we're in right now. In an open ecosystem, that shouldn't be as hard.
So you talk a lot about using the term agency of growth versus agency of record. What does that actually force an agency to give up that most cling to?
Well, look, I think number one, as I said before, I think it forces the agency to be much more transparent with the client about their buying behaviors, about their data fees they're charging, about the technology they're putting in place, how they're building customers. And the second thing is you become a collaboration partner with your customer. This is not about me doing the work and handing you a campaign report. This is about me collaborating on that campaign, executing on that campaign, collaborating together, and then celebrating in the performance and how that performance is done. You don't throw it over the wall to your agency anymore. And I think
which outcomes matter the most, though? Which outcomes matter the most, and which metrics become distractions?
Well, look, I think, traditionally, marketing, sales, and business have had different metrics, right? You've had marketing metrics, you've had sales metrics, and then you've actually had the CFO metrics that they report out on. All of those should be the same metrics. There shouldn't be one person shouldn't be rewarded because their marketing qualified leads were up, but the sales volume was down. Does that make any sense? No. So I think in the world of transparency, you can actually get to the same metric across the entire business, which is the brand impression, the number of widgets that were sold, whatever that may be. And that's how I believe an agency partner and a growth partner should be compensated. So when sales are up and you're performing well, the growth partner should actually get rewarded with you synonymously.
So why isn't this obvious to agencies historically? Why are they so uncomfortable owning the business results?
Well, actually, I would actually say that a lot of brands are reticent to actually embrace this model. In my experience, the brands have pushed back because they want predictability in the agency fees, because they couldn't tie the marketing dollar, the media dollar, to performance, which goes back to my other statement before. I believe that technology is getting to the point where now when I spend on a media dollar, I'll be able to tell you whether or not the widgets have been performing or not. And that's why the rise of the retail media networks have done very well, whether it's an Amazon or a Target or an Albertsons, because they can show a whole closed loop of when I spend $1, did I actually transact?
Have they trained the industry to understand that better, you think?
Maybe. I think so. I think it's a great opportunity to continue to push on that. But outside those retail networks now, we should be able to integrate into the client's ad tech stack and into their financial system, which will allow them to have that transparency.
So when will compensation models actually fundamentally change?
Oh my God. I think, that is a really, really important question. I think in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see some models start to change. We are out now pitching performance-based models as Horizon Media. We believe it's fundamental to what has to happen in the industry. We're in a kind of a hybrid mode. Some are retainer-based with a commission and then an incentive plan on top. Some are incentives and some are fully FTE-based. So it'll take us some time, but we are pushing hard to find one of those clients that will go full performance with us. I'm sorry, I was at a pitch 2 weeks ago, and I said, I know you're asking me for an FTE retainer model. I am going to put that in the proposal, but I'm also going to give you a performance model to consider. And I gave them metrics that we'd hold ourselves accountable for on performance. I don't know what decision they'll make, but we propose both to them.
So the fun part of the show is where I get a strategy on a desert island. You have no Wi-Fi, no dashboards, no board meetings. You can bring 5 people, real or fictional. Who do you bring? And what specific problem does each one solve that you couldn't?
Okay. Well, number one, I bring my wife of 30 years. There's no question there, right? She has been by my side for this journey, and I love her to death, and she makes me who I am. So she would definitely be with me. I would definitely bring, we're on a desert island. So
everyone always picks their wife, but wouldn't someone want their wife not there helping find them? I've never asked that question, but it's curious.
No, because I think I'd have my kids looking for me, for us.
Okay,
both.
So you're not bringing your kids?
No, the kids are staying off. They're staying off. I'm assuming there's lots of fish around the island. I would definitely bring a sushi chef because that is going to get our protein on an ongoing basis. And I love sushi, so that would work out well for us.
Yeah.
I would bring like a car mechanical person. Someone who knows, like a MacGyver, not MacGyver.
Yeah, but probably not a car mechanic.
No.
It's not going to help a lot.
Knows like how to fix things. Right?
It just happens to be like a 1964 Mustang or something.
Yeah.
On the island.
just something, but even just like mechanically, just to get systems running, or
who knows what you can build out of coconuts.
Yeah, how many is that? That's 3? Yeah, 5 people. Do you remember Gilligan's Island? I would definitely bring the professor because he seemed to know everything.
Right. I think all the actors have now died.
Is that right? I love the professor though, because he was always kind of like the guy who had he was our AI machine. I
think a previous guest brought up their crush on one of the characters on Gilligan's Island.
Is that right? Oh, like Marianne was the crush or something?
Yeah, it could have been the professor. I don't remember.
Yeah, professor. It's so funny. But I would love somebody that just is knowledgeable. So that's why I would go with Gilligan's Island professor. And then, go into space world. I would love to bring Scotty. I just think he's fantastic.
The character, yeah. Again, not the original actor.
Guy.
Is there a person there who's there specifically to challenge you and not comfort you? Because as we just talked about, echo chambers do sink ships.
Yeah. No, I think that's why I think the professor, the person who knows more than me, would be that person to sort of challenge the status quo and think about the problem differently than Bob Lord would. Because I definitely have my own opinions, but if someone provides me logic and why and how come, I'm willing to go along.
Say the sushi chef.
Let me take me out of my comfort zone.
I'll do that right now. The sushi chef doesn't know what blowfish is, and the situation stops being romantic and starts looking bleak. Who is going to handle morale?
I would say that would have to be me. I mean, look, that's who I am as a leader. That's who I am as an executive. I would say, paint reality, but give people hope. And I think that that's a really, really important thing to sort of do as an executive. You're in a really bad situation. Your quarter sucked. You didn't make the money that you needed to make. You missed, the stock is down by 10% because you missed the numbers. That's the reality. But let me tell you what's on the horizon. This is where we're heading. These are the new sales calls we have. These are the employees we've just hired. So I think that's part of my DNA.
Who builds, who plans, and who keeps everyone sane, and who absolutely should not touch decision making?
Well, I don't think the sushi chef should be a decision maker.
Oh, he'd be dead at this point.
I think the MacGyver, the Scotty are the guys that are planning and putting together project plans. In case a plane flies over, what do we do? How do we signal for help?
So let's just say rescue never comes. What would you focus on building? Escape, stability, meaning, are all 3 in that order? Because end games matter.
I think coexisting together is sort of the end game. Being dependent on one another and supporting one another, yeah.
What do you think this says about you, all these answers?
That I need a good team around me to be successful.
Right.
There's no way that I could be in the position I'm in today if I didn't have good mentorship and coaches and people around me. I think an executive is only as good as the team that they bring in. A family is only as good as how the parents raise their children. You're only a picture. What is that famous saying? You're only your reflection of your friends.
Right.
So I think it's a matter of who you bring to the party that reflects on you.
If what belief, if not that belief, has quietly guided you more of your decisions than any formal framework or strategy deck?
Look, I would say I was a B student in school,
right?
B plus student. But I actually would turn that into fuel to actually get that better grade. And I think it's because I was always just curious and I love to learn new things. So if you look at the history of where I've come from, I've switched industries 4 or 5 different times over my career. And immersing myself in quantum computing, just because I had the chance to at IBM, I was happy to do it. Not that I would say I'm a quantum expert, but I at least know about quantum computing now, and that got me out of my comfort zone. I think no one taught me that. No one said, Bob, you need to learn new things on an ongoing basis.
So what is the belief? Curiosity?
I think it's intellectual curiosity. I think it's a matter of that I can learn from everyone and everything that I see. I don't come in as I know the answer. I can only tell you what I think, and I can put out a hypothesis, and let's check that hypothesis to see if we're right or wrong. But yeah, I think it's intellectual curiosity.
When do you realize this belief mattered, even if you didn't have language for what it was?
There was a moment in my career where I had the opportunity to fully run a P&L, and it was a small P&L in North Carolina. And that was the first time I ever had revenue all the way to profit responsibility for literally a $20 million business, very small business, part of a big company. I think that was a moment where I was underwater. I had no idea how to rehire people. I had no idea how to fire people. I had no idea how to run a sales department. And all of that was mine. And all the company wanted to know was whether or not I was going to make it or not. And that was probably the most exhausting and trying experience I ever had. I think that's where I was underwater. I think that taught me a lot.
And how has this evolved as you got older?
Well, I keep throwing myself in the deep end. You know, you're a bit wiser. You're a little bit more cautious about things. You're more measured in sort of your decision making. I think you've built up a network over your career that you can rely on, whether that's the professors from business school or whether that's, your colleagues that you had at IBM or at Publicis or whoever. But you're only one phone call away from actually getting great advice. And that, I think, really helps, in a measured way. And then you've learned a lot. You've learned a lot through experience of mistakes that you've made that you're not going to make them again. And I think that helps also.
So what do people most misunderstand about you as a leader?
Misunderstand about me? I think people underestimate my ability to get change done and to do it in a way that is respectful of either the company, the people, the founder, whoever that may be, but to really pivot the company and for it to go do something different. I remember walking into AOL, and it was a content-driven company, and my first thought with Tim Armstrong back then was, look, we're going to make this into a technology data company. And we did that. It was very far from anyone at the Huffington Post or AOL, which was a content-driven company. So I think people underestimate the force that I can bring around transformation.
If you could sit down with your younger self, which illusion would you immediately shatter?
I think there's an illusion that I had growing up where everyone was in it for good. And I learned through hard knocks that everyone is not always operates from a good place. I think I was very trusting for a very long time. I remember my biggest lesson was at General Motors. I was on the factory floor and the shop boss had a heart attack, so I became the boss in a shift supervisory role. And the union boss came over and he said, Bob, I just need you to sign all these papers. And I just signed all those papers. Not knowing what I was signing, I just trusted him, just assuming. I was 20 years old. The next day, everyone on the production line had brand new work boots. I had signed a work order to give everybody boots in the entire factory, okay? And I got called up to the plant manager's office. I thought I was going to get fired, but it was a really big lesson to me that you just can't trust everyone. Everyone doesn't operate from the goodness of the core of doing the right thing for the business or doing the right thing for you. And
trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verify. But that was a hard lesson. And I think I would go back in time now and tell myself, Bob, don't trust everybody. Although your mom and dad told you that was okay, it doesn't work in business.
So last but not least question, 3 months from now, when you look back at this conversation, what would make it a genuine home run?
I think about that a lot. Right? I'm at the end of my career. I didn't have to come back to work. I fundamentally want people to realize that this new technology, I won't even say AI, this new technology and data strategy is fundamentally built to change how marketers communicate with their consumers. And we are in, as I said before, the muddy middle. And people just need to embrace this change and run with new models. And it's not about one company. It's about an open ecosystem. It's about opening up. It's about spurring innovation. It's about the speed of thought to get things done. I would love people to see me as a leader around that change.
The hard part is where we get everyone to dance.
And that was Bob Lord, the man who escaped to quantum computing and came back to tell us we've been doing it wrong. Respect. Big thanks to our sponsors, Troutman Amin LLP, for when you need lawyers who've seen the ad tech horrors, and Incremental, for proving your ads actually worked. With math. Wild concept. This has been the Adotat Show. I'm Pesach Latin. Stay bold, stay curious, no more than you did yesterday.